Okay, this is a continuation from the previous video. I still want to find and determine the slope in y-intercept. This time I'm going to give you 2 points, and I will show you a shortcut way or the right way to find it. But right now I'm going to kind of go the long way to find it, and that way you kind of see where everything comes from. So determine the slope in y-intercept given these 2 points. Given 3, 3 and 6, 1. Alright, and the only way that we know how to do this right now would be to graph it. So let's do that. Here is my x and y intercept axis, y-axis. And now let's plot these points. 3, 3 is about right there. And then 6, 1 is right there. Now, we know this is a line, and we know we need 2 dots to connect the line, so we can just draw it out here. So you get this, as straight as I can draw it anyways. So this still doesn't tell me what my y-intercept is up here, and mine's not drawn with scale either. But it doesn't tell me what my y-intercept is, and does it tell me my slope? Can you answer that? Does it tell you your slope? Pause it and try to figure out your slope. So it does tell you your slope, because remember, the slope is how far up and down you're moving and how far left and right you're moving, the rise over the run. So read it like a book, just like increasing, decreasing, and constant. You read this from the left to right. So you can tell that this is decreasing. Alright, so just start with your farmost left point that you know, and then count down first, and then over, or either way. So I'm going to count down. I'm here at, and I'm going to write the points here. 3, 3, and 6, 1. So I'm going to count down 1, 2, and that gets me in line here, and then I go over 1, 2, 3. And so now that tells me that I'm going down 2 and left 3. There's my slope. Alright, and you have to be careful here, because you're going down 2, so that's a negative 2. Alright, if you're going up 2, then it'd be a positive 2. So always worry about making the rise, the up and down portion, positive or negative. So read it left to right, and then when you do that, you only have to worry about the up and down being positive or negative, and that makes life a lot easier. So out of here, I just found that m, my slope, is, remember it's the rise over run, it's negative 2 over the run 3. So that still doesn't tell me my y-intercept, but it gets me closer. See if you can figure out the y-intercept. Go ahead and pause it. Alright, to find the y-intercept, all we have to do is simply start at this point and use our slope here. Go over 3 and then up 2. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So this is 3, and then this is my 2. If the negative throws you off, you don't have to write that there. That can be a little confusing. But as long as you're going over 3 and up 2, you're good. So from this point, I'm going to the left 3, 1, 2, 3, and then from here, I'm going up to 1, 2. So now this tells me that this point right here is my y-intercept, and that is 0, 5. So y-int is 0, 5. All right. now, let's focus on how we can get the slope just by looking at these 2 points and not having to graph it every single time. Well, let's redraw the graph here. Here's your x and y. And all I care about are those 2 original points. 3, 3, and 6, 1. All right. To go from 3, 3 to 6, 1, we already said we needed to go down 2 and left 3. So what are we really doing? Well, going, remember, up and down, down 2, which variable is changing when we're going up and down? The y is. These numbers are changing here along this axis. So this y value here and this y value here are the ones that are changing. All right, so 1, 2. So what we're doing is we're doing 1 minus 3, or 3 minus 1, however you want to view it. That is, so we're just taking the y values and subtracting them. And then to find the x, we're going 1, 2, 3. So there's 3 units there. Well, which values are we changing when we're moving this direction? We're changing the values on the x-axis. So it started at 3 right here, and it went to 6. So 6 minus 3 is your 3. That's where these come from. And that will lead into the definition here. And this is the formula here that you just need to be able to remember. Remember, it's the rise over the run. The rise is subtracting the y values, and the run subtracting the x values. And here is the definition. How to find the slope. The slope of a line passing through distinct points. And those distinct points, we're just going to label them as x1, comma, y1, and x2, comma, y2. So x1 and y1 over here would just be 3, 3, and x2 and y2 would be 6, 1. So these are just representing any number that we want them to be. We're just putting it in general form here. And so the slope then would just be m is equal to, remember, it's the rise over the runs. So it's rise over run. And if you remember that, and you remember the rise is changing the y values. So we need to subtract the y values. Remember, the run is the changing of the x values. So we need to subtract those values. So subtracting the rise, which is the y values, that means we're going to do y2 minus y1. And then on the bottom, the run, we need to subtract the x values, which is x2 minus y1. X2 minus x1. All right? And the key thing to remember here is that start with y2, then you subtract y1. You have to do the same thing on the bottom. If you start with y2 here, then you have to start with x2 here. Okay? So as long as, it doesn't matter which order you do them in, if you put all the ones here, that's fine. If you put all the 2's here, that's fine. They just have to be in that specific order and lined up. Otherwise, you will get, your answer will be the negative of what it should be. So let's go back to our example with the points 3, 3, and 6, 1. If we want to find the slope of this without graphing it, then we need to write our formula first. Always write your formulas first, and then from there label everything, and hopefully out will pop your answer. So, until you get the hang of it, keep that nearby, but try to talk through it. Remember, the top is the rise, so that's the y's, and the bottom is the run, that's the x's. So it's y2 minus y1, and then that's divided by the change in the x values, x2 minus x1. All right? So we have our formula. Now we just need to figure out what y1, y2, x1, and x2 are. And there's no set way to do it. It's our choice what those are. So just come up here to these values and start labeling them. Here, this is an x value. We'll call that x1. This is my y value to that x1, so we'll call it y1. And then here's my next x value, so that's x2, and this is y2. So I've labeled them, and now all I have to do is plug them in here and do a little algebra. So this is equal to y2, which is 1, minus then, the minus is part of the equation, don't forget it. And if you like to draw the divided sign already, that's helpful. Minus y1, which is 3. Now go to the bottom, the change in the x's. x2 is 6, minus is part of the equation, x1, which is 3. Simplifying this, we get minus 2 divided by 3.